everybody, and welcome to the Quail Forest Community Podcast, where neighbors meet neighbors. I'm your host, Mark Stein, and a resident. This show is all about helping us get to know the wonderful people who live right here in Quail Forest and introducing trusted local organizations and resources, especially those that support our senior residents. Together, we're building a stronger, more connected community, one conversation at a time. Today, I'm excited to chat with Quail Forest resident Nancy Wathen. Nancy lives just a couple doors down from me, and she was the very first person I met when I moved to Quail Forest about 3 years ago. She not only is a wonderful neighbor, but she has an incredibly diverse professional background and a variety of interests that make her a fascinating person to get to know. I'm excited to dive into her story and share it with all of you. Welcome to the Quail Forest Community Podcast, Nancy. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Thrive Quail Forest Community Podcast. Glad to have you there, here with us. And this is a new series for us where I want to interview people in the community. I'm going to call this series something like Getting to Know You. And my hope is that by doing podcasts and interviewing people in the community, that we'll find connections with that person that we didn't know that we have. And it'll spur getting together for lunch, or at least talking about maybe meeting at the pool to talk about these commonalities. So that's my hope. And just everybody has such an interesting story. And I think it's really cool, especially in the same community, to be able to share those stories with others as a tool for introduction and deepening relationships. So today I'm pleased to have Nancy Wathen, and she is at, what's your address?
680 Hickory Nut.
680 Hickory Nut. She's just a couple of doors down from me at 620. And I sort of feel like we're like this, and I would feel this way, that we're at the center of Quail Forest. We probably are pretty close to the geographic center. We certainly get traffic from everywhere. So Nancy was the very first person that I met when I moved to Quail Forest. And what a great first person to meet in this neighborhood. So I'm looking forward. She's got such a varied background, professionally, interests. So I'm really looking forward to interviewing you. And thanks for being the inaugural guest on the Thrive Quail Forest Getting to Know You podcast.
Thanks, Mike.
So let's start with where you grew up. And I don't think it takes many words out of your mouth for people to know that you're from Boston area or the upper Northeast. But talk a little bit about that and growing up, and just sort of, I'll have certain questions in between, but just sort of weave your story for us.
Okay. Yep, I grew up just outside of Boston in Somerville, and a big urban community next to Boston and next to Cambridge. And it was a great place to grow up in. We had, whether it was junior high school or high school, it was a really mixed community. In economic terms, a mix, but there was no, everybody spoke to each other. We all had porches, we all played in the street, and so people got to know each other, and I love that. And early on,
how about your parents?
Good people. My mother had been divorced or was separated before I was born, and so But then when I was very young, she met someone at her job, and they got married when I was 6. So I have the distinction of being the flower girl at their wedding. I still remember that little blue dress. And I have 2 brothers, an older one, and then a younger half brother. So there were 3 of us. My grandfather and grandmother lived with us, so that was extra special. As it was wonderful. So.
How about fondest memory from childhood that just pops into your head?
Well, there's 2 of them. One we always went in the summer to north of Boston, one of the communities on the northern shore called Gloucester, and it was next to Rockport. And if you kept going, then you get into southern New Hampshire, the southern coast of New Hampshire. And I loved Gloucester. I loved. Oh, uh, loved the water. It was always cold, except occasionally in July when a Gulf Stream would come by, but I loved it. And the other thing was I started to get into horses when I was 12, and I used to sell greeting cards and Christmas cards through the neighborhood so I could raise money so that I could rent a horse for a month in the summer, and I could pretend for a month that I had a horse. So uh, it was those were wonderful memories.
Okay, so what's next? College?
Yeah, I was I yes, but by that time I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian. Um I I was allergic to cats, and my mother as well. So I never had a cat. I never had a dog till I was 14, but I did have mice and birds and turtles and lizards, and got to know the local veterinarian down the street and around the corner, and he and his son had a joint practice. The son had just graduated from Michigan State. He said if I was really serious, well, after I got to meet him, I wanted to work for him, get some experience. My mother hoped that this would get it out of my system, but I loved it. And so he said if I got through pre-vet and wanted to go to vet school, he would write a letter of recommendation because the son had just graduated from Michigan State. There were no vet schools in New England. This was a time that the 2 closest, Cornell and University of Pennsylvania, accepted very, very few women. So the best chance was a group of Midwest colleges of veterinary medicine. And since the young vet that I worked for, along with his father, had gone to Michigan State, that's where I went. And I applied for early admission to one school. It was Michigan State. I had no plan B. And so, yep, and off I went to a very large university that, even though I'd gone to a large high school, it was really daunting. So Michigan State was the place that I spent the pre-vet, then applied to vet school, got in, and went all the way through and got my veterinary degree. And that was quite a while ago.
Did you ever go back and work after college or vet school for that particular vet?
No, I didn't, but the father died, and the son started actually expanded to another practice, and he offered me the chance to run the other practice. But somehow at that point, I was not interested in the business of veterinary medicine. So I thanked him and said, No, and at that time I was working for a very old institution in Boston called the Animal Rescue League, and they had the contract for animal control in Boston. So that's where I was. My After a stint in New Jersey in practice, then I came back to Boston and worked in Boston. So no, much later on, I think that I would have enjoyed the business end as well as the practicing end, but that was far later.
Okay.
So I kept in touch with him though for quite a long time.
Um, it seems like I recall you saying that you moved into a large animal practice and with horses and larger animals. When did that, do I remember correctly? And when did that happen?
Yeah, very incongruous that I would do that. After 7 years in practice, I'd gone on a vacation to Puerto Rico and fell in love with Puerto Rico and came back to Boston, cold as always, icy, snowy, and on and started to apply for jobs in Puerto Rico. And the jobs that were most available was working with the federal government, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We had a number of livestock programs down in Puerto Rico as well as throughout the country. And the big thing was a dairy disease called brucellosis. It also affects pigs and people, but it was working to try to wipe it out in Puerto Rico um, that I took a real career turn and hardly remembered anything of large animal medicine, but it was really getting it was it was one of my favorite adventures was the 2.5 years I spent in Puerto Rico. So going from uh, Boston urban to Puerto Rico, where there would be cows just tied up at a traffic sign in downtown Arecibo, and you would wake into hearing a rooster crow in the morning. That was quite a departure, and I thought initially I'd made a very great mistake, but ended up just loving it.
Cool. Let's intersperse the work with personal interest in things so that we're not just staying with work throughout, or not throughout, but continuous. Um, how about favorite cities on earth for you?
Well, Boston, from 1st of July to mid-August, it has wonderful weather. But so Boston, it's a great city. Washington, D.C., where I lived for such a number of years later on. And I, I, you know, I love cities. So that is my that I feel familiar in cities, and it's only been later on that I opportunities like Puerto Rico or living in this area here where I have more of a feel for smaller places. But I'll stick with the large eastern cities, DC, New York, and Boston.
Any international cities that have your heart?
Uh, there's none that I haven't liked, but yeah, Paris and London are really so special. Yeah, for
The
different
architecture
reasons.
in London really surprised me at how beautiful it was. A lot of the white buildings downtown. I don't know, the architecture, and it's not necessarily known for architecture, but I just thought it was just a beautiful city. So, How about participatory sports? Were you ever active in sports yourself?
No, I wish I had come along 20 years later, even 10 years later, as far as the emphasis on sports for women. No, I really uh I it was really, if anything, it would be swimming and doing things like snorkeling, some rowing. I like to do that, but um, tennis and volleyball, things like that. No, I never really got into. Um, so I think I've learned, that was one of the things I think I've learned along the way is to just that being more physically active is not only important for us, but it feels good. It feels like another dimension of ourselves that, it's good to use your body for fun. So
Last personal get to know you question before we go back to work. Uh, Topics. Um, what about the arts? Usually, I think for most people, certain uh, types of art really appeals and resonates, and certain ones leave us cold. I don't think I've met anybody that just is passionate about all of them, all the forms. So, uh, which art form appeals the most to you?
impressionistic art, I love it. It just feels and looks so beautiful and keeps my eye. When in Paris, that was my favorite museum too, the Impressionistic Museum. That used to be a train station. And but yeah, I think what you learn along the way is that the more you know about something, the more you come to appreciate it. So I'm a late comer to abstract art, but I understand it a little bit more. And the wonderful thing about art is that it's endless in the ways that people can express themselves and what they see around them. But impressionistic art is right at the number one.
And what about um, dance, theater,
Mm,
musicals, uh, anything other than visual art that really grabs you?
mm. Music is just an essential part of my life, and I can't imagine any culture that doesn't let people find joy in music. And I love music. I love dancing, and the problem is that I'm going to have to be reincarnated to be able to sing, dance, and act. But I'm looking forward to when that happens because I'm passionate as a observer.
Uh, okay, let's go back to career. And I think we left you in Puerto Rico. Maybe you went a step beyond that. I know you spent a lot of time in DC. Take us to the next journey work-wise.
Well, before I left Boston for Puerto Rico, I had actually considered another career, and that was psychology. Uh, I So anyhow, I pursued a master's in community mental health counseling at a university in Boston at night. And when I got the degree, I didn't quite know what to do with it. And so I thought I'd think about that while I was in Puerto Rico. And I thought I applied to graduate programs while I was in Puerto Rico, uh, and got accepted to a program at Boston University, and then didn't go. I was offered a job back in the DC area in working on animal welfare issues, which the Animal Welfare Act put that program in our agency within USDA. And I'm passionate about animal welfare more than anything else in veterinary medicine or in the animal dimension. So I never did go to go for a doctorate, and I went to DC to take this staff position on the animal welfare staff. Then they offered me a position. I became the first area veterinarian in charge to be a woman. And I had the area of Maryland, Delaware, and DC. So any federal animal health, not just animal welfare, but any federal animal health programs that had to do with that in that area were mine to coordinate and to handle. And I love that. I interfaced with the veterinarians, state veterinarians in Maryland and Delaware, and got the last, helped to get the last slaughter plant, which is poultry plant, closed in DC. You wouldn't believe that there was one, but there was. And I had a wonderful 12-year federal career, spent the first 2.5 years in Puerto Rico, the rest of it in the DC area. And I met wonderful people in FDA, in CDC, and as well as within my own agency. And so I rank my time in the federal government as just significant and really worthwhile, and really taught me so much. So and then I fell in love. So that's why I left the federal government, because I knew I was going to get transferred before too long. And so that's another phase.
So you and Jean, did you move down here, or did you?
Yeah.
Seems like you maybe spent more time in DC or something. What was
Yeah.
your early life like?
Yeah, we met on an early dating app that very soon afterwards went kaput, but that's how we met. And so yeah, Jean and I met. We got engaged in Hong Kong. I was going to meet a federal veterinarian there, a friend of mine, and Jean said, well, I'd love to come too. And so we went to Hong Kong, and while there, got engaged, and then came back. But he'd been born and raised for the most of his life in DC, and we stayed there. And so our son was born about 2 years later. And so I didn't want to leave DC. And so left the federal government and did a number of things. I worked for the National Academy of Sciences, had a board on agriculture. I worked there for a year. I did some animal control work in the suburban Maryland area. And then I went back into practice, which meant I had to go and get licenses again. And so take federal boards again, do the state boards again, and that was another phase. So that's what I've done for the last 20 years or so. And we raised Chris in DC, but when he went to college in South Carolina and was in his senior year, we had already bought this place from Jean's father. in Quail Forest, and we rented it out for a few years, but then took the plunge and moved here in 2009.
Okay. You know, you and Jean seem to be really different personalities, interests, all that. What drew y'all together? And then, yeah, what was the common denominator then? And then how well did you deal with the differences? When I moved to the area just a couple years ago, um, the obvious was the political differences. But anyway, what did you connect on, and how did you deal with the differences of interests and politics and all that?
Mm. A challenge, a real challenge. Yeah, they forgot in that intake questions with the dating app that to ask about political differences, and I do fault them for that. But that was one thing to negotiate. I'm not sure. I don't remember any inroads we made in each other politically. But it was he had marvelous eyes, and he had a kind spirit. And I found out, of course, right away before I dated him that he liked animals, because that would have been a deal breaker. And he had bred Siamese cats with an old girlfriend, and he liked wine, and that seemed like a plus. And
Yeah.
we had he was a person I could be with. I could be, we were comfortable spirits together. Uh, but we came from very different places, and there was, I, it was, uh, so communication is always the name of the game. And that was what we worked on as best we could. And I learned a lot about love during those almost 40 years before he died last fall, about how complex love is, how it doesn't always win out, but it's such a powerful force. And I love that man, and love the fact that we had a son together, and you know, our son's still here. And so, but um, yeah, relationships take work, and so there has to be some kind of deep foundation. And I think it was our sense of that somewhere in that realm of in us, in spite of all the differences, there was a comfortableness to we trusted each other to ultimately be kind to each other.
Nice. You know, in my experience, rarely do I find couples that are closely aligned, whether it be politically, interests. So I think maybe we're meant to explore differences with a partner, maybe work towards acceptance of the differences. But I don't meet too many couples that, oh yeah, we're both into kayaking and fishing and boating. Usually it's opposites attract. Um, anyway, from my experience. Um, so
I,
let's stick with, or let's go to Quail Forest and your feelings about Quail Forest. Um, and I'm choking up a little bit because I really feel like, just from interacting with you and being in board meetings, and you've rotated off the board, but you're still the landscape guru and coordinator, but it feels like I don't know anybody else, and this is no reflection on the current board members or former board members, but you have a deep love for this community that really shows. So talk about that and your feelings about
Mm. Yeah, well, first time I saw it, our son was 6, and Jean's parents had invited us down here for spring break. And yeah, I just I thought it was lovely. And and I had learned by that time that although I love Boston, I was meant to be born in a warm uh, environment and climate. And so the weather, the sunshine, oh my gosh, just feels so natural and good. So Quail Forest made an early fine impression on me. We were here most Easters when Chris was growing up, and then uh, his stepmother and then his father ultimately died. And by that time, we had already bought this place, thinking that, yes, someday we would move down here permanently. I, I I thought it was I had never lived in a managed community before, and the first thing I wanted to do was rip out the dead bushes out in front, and I didn't know that there was you had to go through a process of that. And so I think a managed community is a different concept for a lot of people that they've perhaps not had an exposure to until they move here. But I uh, I just wanted to be part of it. And one thing that I told myself, because at the when I start something new, I sometimes think, oh wow, I'm not sure that I should have begun this. But it was the concept of moving to Florida and saying, you learn to bloom where you planted. And I really wanted to do that. And so I was asked early on to participate in board activities like being responsible for covering the pool at night during winter months. That got into then, well, we need a new landscape plan. And so, okay. And then I ran for the board. And that is just a learning experience that I think would be a fine way to grow for almost anybody. If you've got an open mind and want to contribute, I think being on the board of an HOA or condo, I'm sure is much the same. But I learned so much, again, about communication, dealing with people with very different attitudes and experiences. And so um, I, uh, I earned uh, my wings being on the board. It's a total of like 5 years as vice president, 5 years as president, and then just still staying involved in one way or another. But I do love this place. I love that it's got a wonderful reputation going back to the early years, and for good financial management. We uh, we have looked attractive to scores of physically attractive. The landscaping we've looked appealing to scores of potential homeowners and those who bought in here and those who have rented here. And the idea of community is one, the older I get, the more I buy into that community is what all of this is about, that we're a social species. we need each other even when we don't know it. And and that um and that you're right, that the people I've met over the almost 16 years that we've been here, they amaze me, the where they've been, what they've done, and that there is much to learn from others. And what better a place to make a contribution and an impact than in the very place that you live. And so, yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that.
We have almost the same view out our back door. And I look out, sometimes I'll sit out at night or during the day, especially this season of the year. It's been a beautiful spring. I feel like, stayed cool a little longer. But I look out on the the villas across the way, and I think this will never be built again, at least in the US, certainly in Pinellas County. One story, lots of green space, almost, I think everybody is either on the lake, they back up to the woods, the preserve, or they're on the golf course.
Yes.
And, you know, all the others that you see, multifamily, they're 4 stories tall. There may be a weight room or something, but this, I just don't, I feel like it'll never be recreated, this type of setting. Um, I was also really impressed with how friendly everybody was. And of course, the first people I met were the dog people. And and there's a camaraderie there, even if it's just a wave. Um, I also, pardon me for taking the mic here for a moment, but I also was really impressed with the board, um, and continue to be the financial responsibility that's gone on over the years to have such reserves built up in every needed area. And if the board finds an area that hasn't been that needs reserves and hasn't had them, they build those up. But the fact that we just have had all the roofs redone and only had a $2,000 assessment, and had millions in the bank ready to put into this. I don't know. I've just been really ad admiring the board, how the board interacts. And it is interesting watching how the board interacts with the residents and members. And it's probably a really good way to start a political career, is starting out on an HOA board, because you get a little bit of all of it, don't you?
Oh boy, you're right. Yeah, it really is. You see everything here that occurs internationally. The same pushes to do something and the same pullbacks, and so yeah, we're in the end, it's always the human beings that bring the same characteristics to any discussion. And yeah, local politics, yeah, it's fascinating if you to look in on. And you're right, I've been impressed too. Everybody does stand on the shoulders of others. And like the new change this year about setting aside money for hurricane cleanup that we had spent so much money on last year, that we had to take away from operating funds, and money that had already been some money that had already been promised for other things. And so yes, there needs to be flexibility, and and the agreement, board members don't have to agree with each other, and they certainly don't so often, but they have to have that common desire to do what's best for the community, and they have stepped up. So yes, I really respect those that I've known over the years on the board.
And the board seems to relate so well to each other. Um, I'm sure they have some private meetings where it might get a little bit heated, but it doesn't, I don't get that impression. And then the fact that there's always something. Rosanna Dana used to say, there's always something. Um, uh, Gilda Radner. We're about to get finished with the roofs. Well, we've got the carports. And then somebody brings up, what about the soffits?
Yeah.
The place has obviously been repainted recently. We got, and I'm sure the board feels like, you know, we've got everything under control now, and we got plenty of room to do the repaving. And then somebody mentions the soffits, and I saw everybody thinking like, yep, they were repainted. They were painted over probably a dozen times. And is it a roof project? Is it a exterior painting project? Where does that fall? So there's always something, isn't it? But
There's
everybody,
no boredom whatsoever.
but the community, the people are all so friendly. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm just biased because this is what I've experienced, but I can't imagine. We did live in another community in East Lake, and it was okay, but uh, just feel this place just really feels special
Mm.
to me.
And the animals do help, you're right, because animal people, if they're walking dogs, the cats really need to stay in the house, except on a leash. But it's a chance to catch people uh, at various times during the day uh, or evening. There are even a few of us, well, a couple of us out at midnight, and but usually earlier than that. But yeah, you've got to have, or it helps. It helps to have something to make that initial contact. Animals serve wonderfully in that regard, and I think that that one thing that people appreciate, that we are a pet-friendly community that calls on those animal owners to abide by certain rules, but to be pet-friendly, I think makes the whole community look friendlier, and gives open access to meeting neighbors. So.
Mhm. Before we leave Quail Forest, let me just thank you and commend you for the work that you do with the landscaping. Every when a tree falls, it doesn't stay down very long, even during the hurricane. And there's always replanting going on. I see that some of the shrubs at the front or the back of the house, I see the front, are being replaced on a regular basis
Mm.
with a different variety. It looks like some of these, like out in front of my place, have been here maybe since the beginning of the of the subdivision, the community. um, but you're always replenishing, and the landscapers do a really good job. Um, it seems like there are fewer of them now since the immigration issue. Looks like we're dealing with like two or maybe three that do all of it that 12 would come in here and do.
Oh my, I have not thought about that. And yeah, yeah, we've had such a long and cordial relationship with Design Landscape, and it really helps to have vendors that you've worked with and you're comfortable with, you communicate with, and golly, I'll have to pay attention to that. These are tough times for so many people.
And they seem to get it all done
Mm,
within that one day.
mm,
So it's amazing that a third of the people that used to do it, I guess, yeah. Anyway,
mm.
so take us forward any more than on the career side.
Well, my husband got nearly died from what seemed like a benign form of pneumonia, if there is one, back in 2000, late 2012 and 2013. I didn't know if he would live. And so that began a series, well, the intervening years of chronic health issues, especially lungs, but then a general decline. And so I'd been working part-time. I stopped about 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And then last year, I uh, last year, 2024 was a difficult year. Gene was getting much worse. And so I went back to work. I luckily had very carefully kept my veterinary license and went back to work part-time. And that's been a wonderful encore. Plus, it helped financially. And now I'm going to end that at the end of May and return to retirement. But what um um but I'll always stay involved. I just I care about animals, I care about people, and I I want to see what else is out there.
How
And
was it going back to veterinary practice, even though you didn't start your own practice again, but how was it going back? And after that interval,
mm,
had the technology changed a lot? Probably the drugs, medications have changed and evolved. How was that different?
yeah, it made for a deep dive for a while. I went out and immediately bought some new textbooks for reference. I got on an online veterinary information system, and yeah, it's amazing how much things have changed. Monoclonal antibodies are so much into our a list of treatments for some issues, and but then you also get into every practice is its own environment. And this um, uh, Jim Hughes that I've been working for at Hughes Veterinary Hospital, he had never had an associate. He'd been by himself, solo practitioner for 39 years. So that too, it was different for him and as well as for me. And I'm so glad that it's worked out. But yes, I uh things change and things change quickly. Certainly they do in medicine as well as other areas of life. And but clients don't change, and the animals themselves are still the same. So that's a good starting point. You know, it's still the matter of trying to educate and also try to make clients feel comfortable about asking questions and having them feel like that that you're there, um, that that you're there to be of assistance in whatever ways we can. So um, the details change, but the basics of people and animals interacting and being important to each other, that doesn't change. So
So what are you looking forward to? I think you've got a cruise on the horizon.
mm.
Um, so you're looking forward to travel. What's on your radar for the future?
I will do what traveling I can. Jean's sister has very graciously invited me to two cruises, one in at the end of April and one European river cruise in September. So that's wonderful. I'd love to take a train across the country. I have a I had a creative writing teacher in high school that hated to fly, and she loved trains, and she wrote the most lovely letters. I kept in touch with her for a long time of train trips across the U.S. and across Canada. I'd like to do something like that. And I'd also like to explore just right around me things that, in spite of almost 16 years here, I hadn't done, like going to the Epiphany and Tarpon Springs in January and other things that I've never gotten around to. So, there are adventures to be had close to home and as well as far away. And I'm going to see what I can craft together and stay as healthy as I can meanwhile.
I think we've got one thing on the Thrive Quail Forest um, coming up that neither you nor Louise have done, and that's kayaking. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, well, I have done it, but I do it so occasionally that I don't retain a lot of the mechanics of uh, of uh, of moving correctly in the kayak to get somewhere straight. I have trouble with straight lines there in the water. But yes, and we almost got to it last summer. And but yes, I haven't done it for probably half a dozen years. So I hope it works out that we can fit it in this summer.
I think both times we tried, we brought hurricanes. It seems like so.
I know it's uh kind of worrisome, but what can we do? We'll have to try again.
Yeah. And there's so many parks nearby, state parks that are beautiful. I've been to some of them. A lot of hidden gems that if you just can take the time and break away to do them. My favorite attraction in the whole community is the Imagine Museum. Have you been there?
I have been there um once and I would but I can't remember that as well as some of the other museums, arts and crafts and Dali and uh fine arts. So yeah, I think people have no idea how much culture there is down here. Even Tarpon Springs, the Lipa Ratner, but St. Pete, Tampa, it is all around us. Florida Orchestra. Uh, we're that was quite a surprise to find out how much culture there is. You might have to look under the surface some, but it's all here. It's all here. That local theater, Francis Wilson Playhouse, been involved in for some years. So people do not have to should not be thinking about just coming here and being bored. There, there is
Yeah, with the
no.
beaches and the outdoor stuff. But one of the things I was looking for before I settled down to into a city was having a beach location that has a rich arts culture. And I don't think you usually find both of them in the same city. Maybe Miami, I haven't really spent time there, but usually they're beach or they're cultural and not both. And there seems to be plenty of both in Tampa Bay.
Yes, there are, and I was somewhat prejudiced coming from DC and the Smithsonian, and remember taking a last walking tour through Georgetown, before we moved here and thinking, well, I'll never find anything like this again. And so that was one of the wonderful surprises coming down here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for um, doing this podcast. Um, I learned a lot, and we talk next to our dogs fairly often, and since we live close by. But I hope others have learned something about you that they didn't know, and maybe would be an incentive to get together for coffee or out down at the pool, meet at the pool. Um, so I really thank you for doing it. And I especially thank you for what you do to this community, um, and for this community, and not just the animals, but the people, and how you're always willing to jump in and help someone. So you're a real asset to the community, and probably the best first person I could have met when I moved here. You're also a great resource for a lot of different things. So thank you for that. Thanks for the podcast. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. We're going to put these interviews in the Thrive Quail Forest newsletter that goes out. If you're not in that newsletter email group, please go to our website, thrivequailforest.org, and just put your name and email address and phone, and we'll be sure to notify you. We're doing an event of some sort almost every month, and you'll be on that email list, so you can find out about them. We're about to start a restaurant series. What are we calling it? We're just having our first one at an Indian restaurant, an Indian buffet, one of the few Indian buffets around, and kayaking. We're planning a progressive picnic for 4th of July, maybe one of the weekends on either end, but maybe 4th of July itself. And Nancy's agreed to participate in that. Oh, and we've had some wonderful events at your house. One with a wine tasting, a blind wine tasting, where we didn't know what we were drinking, and had an artist, a local artist, come and display some of his work. A great holiday party during Christmas time. So we've got lots of things planned, and so and we're doing a variety of different things. So something is bound to interest you. Bowling night, or if you're a foodie and like to eat out, and we're going to do different sorts of restaurants, international restaurants, but we're also going to do some favorites, probably Cracker Barrel. This one of the next ones is Duff's Buffet, and I've been surprised at how many people are not familiar with that. It's over in Clearwater, countryside area, and it's great home cooking, maybe $16 a person with a drink, um, and some good home cooked vegetables. I find that I miss those vegetables sometimes. Um, so anyway, check us out online, thrivequailforest.org. Sign up for our email list. And also, last thing, if you know of people who would be great to interview, like Nancy, that you think people in the community need to know more. And we've got people that have done really interesting things, or still doing interesting things, or people that have a passion for something in particular. I'd love to interview them. So have them contact me, maybe through the website, or my Thrive website. Email address is mark@thrivecolivingcommunities.org. Or catch me out with Duncan as we're out walking. So if you like the podcast, please subscribe to it. It'll be on YouTube and on our website. Subscribe, like it and click that notification bell, and then the algorithm will make sure that you get to see the next ones. So thanks again, Nancy. Thanks to all of you in the community, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time with us today on the Quail Forest Community Podcast. And thanks to Nancy Wathen for sharing her story. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll never miss a conversation. And most importantly, tell a neighbor about the podcast this week. That's how community grows. We're looking forward to interviewing other interesting residents, and resources to interview on the podcast. So if you know somebody who has a compelling story, great hobby, interesting interest, please send them our way. Our contact information is down in the show notes below. Thanks again, and see you next time.